Hi everyone, I'm Hannah.
And I'm Janelle.
And we're here with Extreme Makeover School Edition.
And today we're at Dominican College because one of the students here wanted to make one of her buildings accessible for everyone.
And there are 7 principles we use to make a building universally designed.
1. Equitable use. Designs that provide the same means of access for all.
Principle 2. Flexibility in use. Designs provide choice for left and right hand dominance.
Principle 3. Simple and intuitive use. Designs that are easy to understand.
Principle 4. Perceptual information. Designs that maximize legibility.
Principle 5. Tolerance for error. Designs that minimize hazards.
Principle 6. Low physical effort. Designs that minimize repetitive actions and use reasonable operating forces.
And Principle 7. Size and space for approach and use. Designs that provide clear line of sight and adequate space.
Hi, I'm Colleen. I'm one of the administrators here at Dominican College. Ingrid wanted me to share a little bit about her. She's 45 years old and she recently suffered a traumatic brain injury during a ski vacation that she was on with her family. She's married and has 2 children, and they live in a 2-story home in the suburbs. Prior to her injury, she was a social worker at a skilled nursing facility, and she frequently volunteered at her daughter's school to read, and she was independent in all areas of her occupations. After her injury, Ingrid spent several weeks in an acute care hospital and was then transferred to a rehab hospital closer to her home. Her occupational therapy eval revealed a variety of impairments for occupations. She's progressed during recovery from an unconscious state to only requiring minimal physical assistance and frequent verbal cues for transfers and wheelchair mobility. For client factors, Ingrid has intact sensation, vision, hearing, and right upper extremity passive range of motion within functional limits. Performance skills. Ingrid responds to simple directions. Performance patterns. Ingrid is motivated to return to her roles and routines. Context and environment. Ingrid has a supportive family, a husband who can assist with mobility, and her background as a social worker may indicate an understanding of the recovery process. For problem areas, occupations, Ingrid is currently non-ambulatory and requires moderate assistance for all ADL tasks. Client factors, Ingrid has little insight into her deficits, is easily distracted, has poor short-term memory, little carryover of learning, and impaired perceptual processing. She has active range of motion less than 1/2 normal in both shoulders. Performance skills, Ingrid lacks initiation and is critical of others. Performance patterns. Ingrid is currently unable to return to her roles as a wife, caretaker, worker, and participant in her active lifestyle. Context and environment. Ingrid has no disability insurance and her husband is afraid to take more time off from work.
Go. And now we're going to give you a little bit of history on Forkle Hall.
Wow, here's a maintenance guy. Can you come over here, sir?
Sure. What's going on?
Would you be able to give us a little more history about this building? We're doing a project on it.
Sure. I know quite a bit about it. I've been here for a while. So I know that we built it in 1956.
Mm-hmm.
In 65, we added some more classrooms.
Okay.
I think it was 1977 that the sisters across the hall deeded it. So they were in control of it, and then in 2011, Dominican College leased it for a 5-year period.
Okay, awesome.
We've got 1 accessible parking space over here.
Okay.
There's 2 additional parking spaces across the hall in front of the library.
Okay.
And then just a short walk away, we've got a really big parking lot with a few more accessible parking spaces and a ton of student parking.
Awesome.
Okay, so here's just a little more detail about Forkle Hall. You can see that it's a T-shaped design. It covers approximately 7,900 square feet, and it's a single floor design. The main doorway is covered overhead. The features a 66-inch wide by 83-inch high double door. The handle on the left side is 34 inches high, and on the opposite side of the door, the double-sided handles are also 34 inches. Inside, the lobby door is 17 inches wide by 78 inches high. That leads to the 120-foot main hallway that has the classrooms on the right and the bathrooms and the offices back on the left. If you walk all the way to the end, there's an additional set of double doors at the end of the hallway. Proceeding straight and going up 3 sets of stairs connects with the appended annex classroom. And to the left is an exit, and what you would notice is that the exit connects to Sullivan Library, although the staircase does not feature a ramp.
Thanks, Doug. Now we're going to analyze the building. As we first pull up, there are ample amount of parking spaces for people to park. Then as you walk in, there's a variety of pathways. However, when it rains, water pools up at the base of the pathway with no stairs, and the pavement has numerous cracks which make it hard to navigate.
In addition, there's also ample amount of lighting that's going to light up the pathway, and the doors are wide enough, but they lack an automatic entry. So now let's go inside. So now we're going to go over these double doors, and they're nice and wide for all mobility.
Wide hallways, it's lit well. And now we're going to go into the bathroom, ladies' room. It's not labeled very well, except with this piece of paper that can come off. There's no automatic door, and we got to push it open.
Wow.
Wow.
Pretty heavy.
Yeah. Oh. Okay. So let's find the light switch. The light switch is really high. Let's turn the lights on.
Here, there is, I can barely see my head in the mirror. We have automatic soap, but we don't have automatic paper towels, and the sinks look a little high.
Here's the handicap bathroom. They have grab bars, but the toilet seems a little low. Is that it? I think that's it, Doug. Alright, so now let's go into this classroom. Alright, so there's no door number, so people can get easily confused on what kind of classroom they're actually going in. I'm going to pull it open. There's a doorknob, no automatic switches again, and it feels a little narrow walking in here. Automatic light switch.
In the classroom, it looks really cluttered with all these desks and chairs. This platform doesn't have a ramp, so the board's not accessible to all mobility. It has a lot of windows which provide natural light.
But it can also, with the blinds being open, can be very distracting to certain people that are in this classroom.
Yeah.
Alright, so let's look at this next classroom. The doors are definitely wide enough, but they're not automatically opening. In order to get into this classroom, we have to go upstairs. There's no ramp, and the door probably needs to get widened.
And then inside the classroom, we can see that the desks and chairs are not adjustable. The desks look a little low, and also the lights, only a couple of them work out of the rest.
And they look like they're the fluorescent lights, which aren't pretty. They're not good for.
And the windows don't have any blinds on them, which could also be a hazard. Not a hazard, it would be a distraction for people who can't pay attention.
But you can use these desks differently, and you could either have them in different configurations, which can be used for individual work or group work.
Yeah, because how the computers are set up right now with the windows, the glare would not be good for anyone who's trying to use the computer.
Okay, let's recap on what we just saw. The strengths are the exterior access to Forkel Hall exemplifies the universal design principle 2, flexibility in use, and principle 7, size and space for approach and use. For example, there's one accessible parking space immediately outside of the building and several additional parking spaces next door. The building is located on a lightly trafficked road, and there is an ample street lamps illuminating the various walking paths, demonstrating principle 5, tolerance for error. Another strength are the front doors are 33 inches wide by 83 inches high. The door handle is 34 inches high, and the threshold is a half an inch. These ADA compliant features represent successful implementation of Principle 7, size and space for approach and use, providing Ingrid with sufficient width to enter with a wheelchair. Another strength are the lobby doors and double doors at the end of the hallway. They are both 35 inches wide and do not have thresholds, and offer more than 5 foot by 5 foot turning radius, all of which are ADA compliant and demonstrate Principle 7, size and space for approach and use. Another strength are in the bathrooms. The wall-mounted sinks allow for ease in accessing regardless of the person's ambulation status. It has traditional size stall as well as the handicap accessible stall with automatic soap dispensers. These qualities facilitate Principle 1, equitable use, and Principle 6, low physical effort. The last strength is that both classrooms offer a significant amount of natural light, enabling Principle 4, perceptual information. Their large size offers sufficient size and space for the approach and use of Principle 7.
Now for the weaknesses. The bottom of Forkel Hall's main entrance is in disrepair. When it rains, water can be seen pooling at the edges and the concrete is cracked. Additionally, the two-part design, one with stairs and one without, represents inequitable use, a failure of Principle 1. The rear exit leads to a path that ends with 10 stairs and no ramp. This is another failure of equitable use and size and space for approach and use. And in the case of an emergency, Ingrid would not be able to safely escape, which is a failure of Principle 5, tolerance for error. Additionally, none of the doorways in any of the locations have accessible communication systems, door markings, or automated controls. This is a failure of Principle 1, equitable use, Principle 4, perceptible information, and Principle 6, low physical effort. Ingrid may be unable to tell which door to approach and may not have the physical strength to manipulate it. Also, entering the bathroom requires pushing open one 29-inch wide door, navigating a small entryway, and opening another door of the same size. This width is not ADA compliant and fails to account for Principle 7, size and space for approach and use, and Principle 6, low physical effort. ADA guidelines state that reachable objects must be no higher than 48 inches from the ground. The light switches are 54 inches, while the mirrors are 56 inches from the ground. These characteristics are not in accordance with Principle 1, equitable use, or Principle 5, tolerance for error, and would be inaccessible for Ingrid to utilize. Lastly, there are 4 faucets with 2 knobs that require the user to turn them either right or left, which Ingrid would not be able to utilize due to decreased strength. This design fails to adhere to Principle 6, low physical effort. According to the ADA, desk width should be at least 30 inches by a depth of 17 inches. In classroom number 1, the desks are too narrow to allow wheelchair access or adequate space for legroom. Additionally, the overabundance of chairs and desks may create a safety hazard. Clearance for a turn in a wheelchair should be at least 5 feet by 5 feet. Maneuvering around the furniture may be a problem for Ingrid since they do not allow for space for the use of assistive devices. Furthermore, a raised platform at the front of this room denies wheelchair users the ability to utilize it for presentations. These failures indicate a lack of accordance with Principle 1, equitable use, Principle 2, flexibility in use, Principle 5, tolerance for error, and Principle 6, low physical effort. Lastly, classroom number 2 can only be accessed by a 3-step staircase that does not have a ramp, which is a failure of Principle 1, equitable use. Additionally, the equipment in this classroom does not accommodate users with diverse abilities. The chairs are not adjustable, and the desks are all one height, failing to account for Principle 2, flexibility in use. The room has significant glare due to the number of windows without shades, and only 3 of the 18 total overhead lights are functional. These challenges exemplify a failure of Principle 4, perceptible information.
All right, Colleen. Now Janelle and I have looked over the building and we came up with some recommendations that we think would be beneficial and make the building more universally designed. I'm going to go over the short-term recommendations and then Janelle will go over the long-term.
Great, so these recommendations will help Ingrid as well as the other students here at the college.
Absolutely, yes. And they're less costly and we can implement them immediately, so we could get them started, the short-term ones.
Oh, great.
First, we're going to utilize the rubber door stops for the double doors manually propped open for the front entrances. This will reduce the physical effort that people have to use to open the door, and they would be able to get into the building with no problems. We can also add some room numbers and braille markings to all the entrances because it's very confusing on what room you're going into and you can't locate where you need to go when you're looking at instructions or your schedule, and it would just make it easier for everyone to get into their classrooms. Okay. And in the bathroom, you have to go through 2 doors to get into the bathroom. So if we just remove the interior door off the hinges just for temporary, we can reduce the physical effort of getting into the bathroom as well. Okay. The classrooms have a lot of desks in them, so if we remove like 5 to 10 desks, it'll give more space. and it would be easier for people like in wheelchairs or walkers or anything like that to navigate through the classroom and actually sit at a desk. And then also the lights are like fluorescent lighting, a lot of them. So if we just change the light bulbs to LED or natural lighting, it will be beneficial to everyone.
Okay, those sound great.
Okay.
And now for the long-term recommendations. So these are going to be more expensive, but they're going to be extremely beneficial. So we would want to repave and add drainage to the parking area and the walkways to prevent any hazards while people are trying to enter the building. We would also want to replace and widen all doorways and offer automatic push-button entries. That's just going to make it easier to access the building and the classrooms with low physical effort. We would want to add ramps. So these are going to be important, especially outside, because there's stairs outside, but there's nowhere to go anywhere. And in case of an emergency, there wouldn't be anywhere for someone to go.
Okay, I understand.
Also, we want a ramp for the back classroom and a ramp for the platform in the other classroom so that the users of all mobility, such as Ingrid in a wheelchair, can access the board.
Okay.
For the bathroom, we would want to create 3 fully accessible bathroom stalls in accordance with ADA guidelines. So we would want to lower the mirror height, install grab bars, toilets that have sensor valves, wall-mounted sinks, and automatic faucets, soap dispensers, and paper towel dispensers. And that's just going to make them easier for everyone to use, low physical effort, and they're going to be more perceptible.
Okay, great. These sound like wonderful recommendations.
And even in further long term, we could also remove the platform in the second classroom just to make it
Yes.
easier. But the ramp is still long term, but
Okay.
it'll be a
Yeah.
progression.
Great.
I actually think that that's a better idea.
Yeah.
To just remove it completely, and then, because it kind of takes up a lot of space in that classroom anyway, it's
Right.
not a necessity.
Okay. These are wonderful. Thank you guys so much for your time.
You're welcome. And we'll be back when you want to do the renovation.
Great.